Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to break down complex topics into those really essential, fascinating insights for you. Today, let's journey back. We're going to 17th century Rome,
Ah,
the city that felt, well, less like just a place and more like this grand, dramatic stage.
that's a perfect way to put it. And think about this.
Mm.
A time when art wasn't just nice to look at,
Mm-hmm.
but a really powerful strategic weapon.
Exactly.
So our deep dive today, it's
Mm.
all about the Roman Baroque. And like you said, we're not just admiring a style. We're
Oh.
digging into it as a strategic, emotional, almost visually overwhelming response to a major crisis.
Right.
Our sources give us this amazing blueprint, really, showing how Rome became the absolute epicenter of this new artistic wave that just reshaped Europe.
Yeah.
We'll get into its origins, how it broke from earlier styles, and the big names who literally sculpted its dramatic look.
And what grabs me is that this wasn't just about looking good. The Baroque was, deliberately designed to create a heaven on earth. And the why behind that, well, it was absolutely critical for the powers that were running the show back then. So let's unpack how Rome managed that.
Okay, so Rome in the 17th century. You really can't overstate its importance. It was the spiritual, political, and artistic heart of the Catholic world, no question.
The absolute center.
The birthplace and the most vital city for the Baroque style taking shape.
It's fascinating then to think about what drove this new style, because the Baroque, it wasn't just frills and decoration, was it?
Not at all. Fundamentally, it was an art form that grew right out of absolutism and the Counter-Reformation.
Okay.
Its main job, really, was to demonstrate very visibly the absolute power of the church and also secular rulers.
So those incredible palaces, the huge parks, the churches that just take your breath away?
Exactly. They weren't just buildings. They were designed as monumental structures meant to inspire awe, fascination. They were literally manifesting claims to power by just overwhelming you with their sheer scale and grandeur.
Right, making power visible, undeniable.
Which brings us to the deep reason for this dramatic shift in art. The Baroque was a very deliberate visual answer to all the political and religious chaos of the 16th century.
You mean the Reformation?
Yeah, the rapid spread of the Reformation, mostly north of the Alps, it seriously challenged Catholic authority. And in Protestant areas, this led to, well, widespread iconoclasm.
The destruction of art.
Thousands and thousands of religious artworks destroyed. A huge blow.
That must have been devastating for the church, artistically, spiritually. So how did they fight back against this challenge to their authority and the loss of all that art?
Well, the big move was Pope Paul III convening the Council of Trent. That started in 1545. And a key decision, a really pivotal one, was to make art not just something acceptable, but a central, essential tool for the Counter-Reformation.
Ah, okay. So art gets a new mission.
A very clear one. The new directive was, art must show biblical stories vividly, realistically, clearly. The goal was to boost piety, to capture people's hearts and minds.
So they needed something with more punch than just rules and doctrines. Is this where art becomes like a tool of persuasion?
Yeah.
Designed to hit you on an emotional level?
Precisely. The church leadership recognized that just relying on dogma, on teachings, it wasn't quite enough anymore to keep people connected. They needed an art form that could overwhelm the senses,
Yeah.
emotionally re-engage people deeply. So the architects, the artists of the Baroque, they were basically commissioned to stage this heaven on earth,
Right.
using all this visual and emotional power to fascinate believers, persuade them, draw them back into the church's embrace.
Okay, so that explains the drama, the movement, the incredible light and shadow play, the sheer grandiosity. These weren't just artistic whims.
Not at all.
It sounds like the theatricality, the exuberance, it was a direct result of the church's strategic shift. A way to visually shout about its power, its triumph.
Absolutely spot on. This architecture had to celebrate the papacy's power, its victory, in a bold, undeniable way.
Now, to really get the scale of the Baroque Revolution, we should probably quickly touch on what came right before it, the Renaissance.
Good point.
That period, starting around the 14th century in Italy, it was all about rediscovering and appreciating ancient Greek and Roman art and culture.
Right, Renaissance architecture focused on those classical forms. Clear compositions, straight lines, symmetry, this ideal of harmony.
You see ordered arches, domes, those neat triangular gables, columns, all following ancient examples pretty closely, often using linear perspective for balance and order.
The Renaissance ideal, you could say, was sort of static perfection. intellectual order.
But then Baroque arrives, and it's not just throwing the Renaissance out.
No, not at all. It's often described as a dynamized Renaissance, basically the Renaissance put into motion.
How did they do that? How did Baroque architects take those same classical building blocks but give them this completely radical emotional spin?
Well, instead of that static harmony and mathematical precision, they injected dynamism, tension, theatricality. So where the Renaissance liked stable, horizontal and vertical lines, the Baroque throws in strong diagonals, curves, concave, and convex shapes. This creates a feeling of movement, almost like restlessness or excitement within the building itself.
Interesting.
The clear goal was an art form that really grabbed the viewer, pulled you into a kind of theatrical moment, engaging you emotionally right away.
And transforming those classical forms, that wasn't accidental, was it? It sounds like a very conscious, symbolic move.
Oh, definitely. It was about taking what they saw as, pagan forms and surpassing them, giving them a new divine power, reinforcing the church's dominance, and the rulers too.
Okay, let's break that down. Specific examples help. Columns and pilasters, for instance. Renaissance, used by the book. Classical orders, very harmonious.
Right. But the Baroque introduces what's called the colossal order. That's where columns or pilasters stretch up over 2 or even more stories.
Creating that massive feeling.
Exactly. Huge scale. And they also use double columns, bundled pilasters. This gives an intense plasticity, like they're almost sculptures peeling off the wall. Adds to that feeling of movement, of depth.
Okay, and what about domes and vaults? We know ancient Rome was brilliant with those, the Pantheon is just stunning.
True. The Renaissance brought domes back as symbols of perfection, usually clear geometric shapes.
So how did Baroque change them?
Well, they often merged the traditional long church layout, the nave, with the central dome. And they really emphasized the crossing, where the main aisle and the cross aisle meet.
Like the center point?
That became this dramatic focal point. And crucially, these domes, these vaults, they were just covered in elaborate stucco work and painting, especially those illusionistic ceiling paintings.
Oh, yes, you mentioned those.
That just create this incredible feeling that the ceiling is opening up to the heavens, completely blurring the line between the actual building and the painting.
Making the architecture disappear into the sky. Amazing. What about gables and facades? Ancient Rome, the Renaissance, they used those clear triangular gables. Orderly, calm.
Baroque smashed that calmness. They used what are called Baroque impediments. The triangle shape is interrupted in the middle, and wave gables, curvy ones, all designed to create movement, plasticity.
So the whole front of the building comes alive.
Exactly. The entire facade becomes like a giant sculpture. With those concave and convex curves, it creates this dynamic play of light and shadow. And it usually emphasizes the center, drawing your eye towards the entrance.
And ground plans. Rome had the long basilica or the central plan. Renaissance like strict symmetry, circles, squares.
Baroque often fused those two ideas, the long plan and the central plan. You start seeing oval shapes, curved layouts, side chapels branching off. It creates a much more flowing, generous feeling of space inside.
It sounds like the whole architectural language was rewritten.
Pretty much. Rewritten to engage your emotions, to guide you through this carefully crafted experience.
Okay, so let's pull these threads together. What are the core features of Roman Baroque architecture that make it so immersive? First, you said the facade is like a stage set.
Definitely. A dynamic sculpture. Those curves, concave, convex, they make the light and shadow dance across the surface all day long.
Changing throughout the day.
Yeah. And its job is to pull you, the viewer, visually into the building. That strong central focus, often around a grand doorway, is key.
And then there's this idea of the unity of the arts, the Gesamtkunstwerk.
Yes, fundamental. It means a seamless fusion. Architecture, sculpture, painting, even crafts like metalwork or woodwork, it all comes together.
So the building isn't just a container for art.
No, it integrates it all to create this overwhelming, all-encompassing experience. Stucco, that plaster-like mix, was used everywhere. And frescoes, like those ceiling paintings, they visually extend the architecture itself.
It's a full-body experience hitting multiple senses.
And that was the goal, to totally envelop the viewer.
So when you stepped into a Baroque church, it wasn't just a building. It was like stepping onto this incredibly crafted stage where every sense was deliberately engaged. How did they manage that, especially with light? Light seems so hard to control.
Well, controlling light and shadow was absolutely critical for the drama, the emotion. Baroque architects were masters at it. They carefully planned where windows went, how light entered. to create specific moods, highlight specific spots.
Like spotlights on a stage.
Exactly. They use strong contrast between light and dark, that's chiaroscuro, and the intense three-dimensional quality of the sculptures and architectural bits. It gives the spaces this incredible depth, makes them feel alive, like the building itself is breathing with light and shadow.
And then there's just the sheer richness of it all, the details.
Yeah, opulence. That decoration was a very clear sign of the patron's huge wealth and power.
Not subtle.
Definitely not subtle. Baroque buildings are just loaded with ornamental details. And this was presented as, divine generosity, but also unlimited princely power. You see things like volutes, those scroll shapes, often connecting different levels in cartouches, which are like elaborate frames for crests or inscriptions.
I think I know what you mean.
And the color scheme, often lots of white and gold, symbolizing wealth, sure, but also heavenly purity.
So even the decoration is sending a message.
Absolutely. It was a political statement designed to impress everyone, reinforce the patron status. These buildings became powerful symbols of absolutist rule. They weren't just decorating. They were making a declaration.
Speaking of power and declarations, the energy, the creativity of the Roman Baroque, it seems like it was really cranked up by this intense rivalry.
Between two giants, right? Bernini and Borromini.
Oh, absolutely. Lorenzo Bernini and Francesco Borromini. Their competition for the big, prestigious jobs, it definitely pushed the style to new limits, but in really different ways.
Okay, tell us about Bernini first.
Bernini was, well, the extroverted superstar.
Yeah.
Hugely famous sculptor and architect, very much favored by popes, cardinals, apparently had a really charismatic personality.
And Borromini. Borromini was more the introverted outsider, worked more quietly, more intellectually, kind of in the background compared to Bernini.
That's a fascinating contrast. How did their personalities show up in their architecture?
Well, Bernini's style was really influenced by his background as a sculptor. He saw architecture almost as a stage for his incredibly dramatic sculptures in these visually stunning scenes.
Right.
His actual building forms could be, relatively speaking, a bit simpler sometimes. But the huge impact came from how he masterfully combined sculpture, dramatic lighting, painting, everything to create this sense of awe, this monumental exuberance. It was all about the grand show, the orchestrated experience.
Okay, so Bernini delivers the spectacle of art. How did Borromini compete with that? How did he achieve his effect?
Borromini got his impact directly from the architecture itself. He was an absolute master of manipulating space. He used really complex geometric designs to create these pulsating, dynamic interiors. His trademark is using concave and convex curves, weaving in and out, creating this spatial interplay. Rooms seem to expand and contract as you move through them, always in motion.
Wow.
Often, maybe because of budgets or smaller sites, he worked on slightly smaller projects than Bernini. But that forced him to perfect proportions, develop these incredibly intricate but totally coherent plans.
So less about the added spectacle, more about the core form.
Exactly. He created this deeply intellectual and emotionally gripping experience that was rooted right in the architectural forms themselves.
What an incredible difference. Two geniuses pushing the same style in such opposite directions. Bernini, the ultimate showman in stone. Borromini, the architect, exploring emotional space itself.
Yeah, it really shows the range and depth of what the Baroque could do.
So let's try and wrap this up. What does this all mean for us looking back? This deep dive, it's shown us how Roman Baroque came out of a crisis. Born from upheaval? How it took classical forms and just filled them with this incredible dramatic energy.
Dynamize them, yeah.
How it fused all the arts together into this one overwhelming experience.
The Gesamtkunstwerk.
And how it was profoundly shaped by that rivalry between its two greatest masters.
Right. Understanding the Baroque lets you see these amazing buildings, not just as, old structures. You see them as a deliberate, powerful manifesto carved in stone, a testament to a very specific time in history when art became the ultimate way to express power and faith.
They weren't just buildings. They were making a statement.
Very loud one.
And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with as we finish this deep dive, consider this. How might our society today, facing our own challenges, our own kind of information overload, how might we use art and architecture now to send powerful messages or evoke specific emotions on that kind of grand, all-in scale?
That's a really interesting question.
What would our modern manifesto in stone even look like? And what would it be trying to tell us?
Definitely something worth thinking about long after this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on the deep dive.